We begin with a major new development in the vicious, fatal stabbing of a British soldier. Two more people, a man and a woman, have just been arrested. The charge, suspicion of conspiracy to commit murder. We're also learning more about the victim of that attack. Britain's Ministry of Defence has just identified him as 25-year-old Lee Rigby. Well, Lee Rigby was from Manchester, England, and senior international correspondent Matthew Chance is nearby in Middleton, and he joins us now live. Matthew, you've been speaking to people there in the community. What more have you been able to find out about the victim?
Well, there's a great deal of shock, Aisha, here in the community where Lee Rigby comes from and where his family still live. It's a very kind of down-at-heel, working-class neighbourhood here on the outskirts of Manchester in the sort of place called Rochdale. And the community are very tight-knit, and all of them have expressed their shock at the fact that, you know, this individual, this soldier, was somebody very much from these streets around there. Actually, the family's residence is just a short distance from here behind me. It's just round that corner behind me. But they've asked the media, and there's lots of media that's gathered here out of respect, not to film outside the house at this stage, and so we've come back to this point, just a short distance away. But again, spoken to lots of neighbours, a lot of shock that this has taken place, a lot of anger as well towards the people that carried out this brutal killing. A little bit more information from the Ministry of Defence about Lee Rigby. He was 25 years old and served in the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Fusiliers. He'd been in the Army, according to the Ministry of Defence, since 2006 and had served in a number of locations, including Cyprus and Germany, and interestingly in Afghanistan as well. In 2009, he served a tour of duty in Helmand province at a very dangerous time for British forces in southern Afghanistan at that time. And so a lot of people have been sort of talking about the irony of having survived that extremely hostile environment in southern Afghanistan, but to be slayed on the streets of his own country, Aisha.
Yeah, indeed. And Matthew, none of us can wipe from our minds those images of that man with those bloodied hands wielding a meat cleaver, who has now been named as Michael Adebolajo. Have you been able to find out any more about this individual?
Well, we know that he's a British citizen. We know that Michael Adebolajo is a convert to Islam. We understand he was born in a Christian family but converted some years ago to Islam. There's also kind of lots of information that's been circulating about him. Also, you mentioned at the top of the show that counter-terrorism police in London have made 2 further arrests as well of a residential area in South London. They say they've arrested 2 people, both aged 29 years old, on suspicion of conspiracy to murder. So these are people who are allegedly or suspected of being connected with these perpetrators as well, alleged perpetrators. And so obviously there's going to be a lot more information come out on them shortly. It's a big operation. Police are still forensically examining the site and trying to connect anybody who may have been associated with these individuals that are believed to have carried out the killings.
Before I let you go, one last question for you, Matthew. Had this individual, this Michael Adebolajo, had he been on the radar of security services?
Well, surprisingly, he had been, and according to security sources, also the second individual that was at the scene of the killing as well was apparently on the radar, as you put it, of the security services as well. They were both known characters, and that makes it all the more surprising to many people in Britain that they weren't being more closely monitored. But of course what the authorities say is that, you know, just because you're known to the authorities, it doesn't mean that's grounds for arrest, let alone grounds for a charge of any crime. It's not even grounds in Britain to be, you know, kind of monitored any more closely than any other member of the public, particularly on a day-to-day basis. And so yes, they were known individuals, but they were obviously deemed not to be a threat to the public. That was obviously a miscalculation on the part of the intelligence services.
But it is indeed a fast-moving investigation. Matthew Chance is on it for us, joining us there near Manchester. Matthew, appreciate it. Thank you.